The old man sat at the edge of the harbor where New York met the sea. No one knew his name. Sailors passed him every morning. British soldiers laughed at him. Merchants ignored him. Children feared him. He never begged. He never spoke unless spoken to, and even then, rarely. But his eyes never stopped watching. They had seen too much. In the year 1775, America did not exist. There were no stars on any flag, no proud anthem, no promise of freedom. There was only empire, hunger, fear, and obedience forced at gunpoint. The old man had lived long enough to see hope beaten out of people. British ships filled the harbor like floating prisons. Red-coated soldiers marched through the streets with the confidence of men who owned everything, including the future. Every step of their boots reminded the people who ruled them. Order, the British called it, but order had a cost. A farmer once stood near the docks, arguing with an officer. He was short on tax, only a few coins. The officer listened without emotion, then nodded. Two soldiers grabbed the farmer's teenage son and dragged him toward a ship. The boy screamed. The father collapsed. The old man watched. He did not interfere, not because he did not care, but because resistance in those days meant death, and death did not always come quickly. The colonies were bleeding quietly, not from open war, but from 1,000 invisible wounds. Taxes that left families starving, laws written an ocean away by men who would never touch this soil, whips cracking on backs that history would later pretend not to see. At night, whispers traveled faster than the wind. How long can this go on? Are we not men? Do we live just to kneel? The old man heard them all. He remembered when people still believed the crown would protect them. He remembered when obedience felt safer than courage. But safety had become an illusion. Boston was the first to break. The newspapers would later call it a disturbance, a disagreement, an unfortunate incident. The streets told a different story. Snow mixed with blood. British soldiers fired into a crowd of unarmed men. One of them was a dock worker. Another was a father of 5. Another had simply been in the wrong place. The old man stood at the edge of the crowd, unseen. He watched freedom die and then be reborn as anger. After that night, something changed. People stopped whispering. They began to prepare. Men who had never held weapons cleaned old muskets. Farmers sharpened tools that were never meant for war. Women stitched clothes, knowing some would never be returned. The old man walked through villages and towns, hearing the same sentence again and again. If we do nothing, we lose everything. Still, no one knew who fired the first shot. History would argue about it forever. But the old man knew. It happened on a damp morning in Lexington. The air was heavy. The ground was soft with mud. Nervous hands gripped rifles. No one wanted to be first. Everyone was afraid of being last. A British officer shouted an order. A colonial farmer flinched. A finger tightened. The sound cracked through the air. That single gunshot did not just kill a man. It killed the idea that peace was still possible. Chaos followed, smoke, screams, bodies collapsing into history. The old man closed his eyes when it began, not because he feared death, but because he understood what had just been born. War does not begin with courage, it begins with desperation. As the revolution spread, so did its contradictions. Men spoke passionately about liberty while owning other men. They wrote poetry about freedom while building it on stolen land and unpaid blood. The old man saw the hypocrisy clearly, long before textbooks softened it. At Valley Forge, winter became the enemy. Soldiers wrapped their feet in rags because shoes were a luxury. Hunger hollowed faces until boys looked like ghosts. Men deserted not because they were cowards, but because hope froze before their bodies did. George Washington walked among them, silent. History would paint him as unshakable. The old man knew better. He had seen Washington alone, staring into the fire, hands trembling not from cold, but from doubt. The weight of failure crushed him nightly. He knew the war could still be lost. He knew men were dying believing in him. Leadership, the old man understood, was not confidence, it was endurance. The war dragged on. Victories felt accidental, losses felt permanent. Foreign alliances arrived late and demanded payment in influence. And beneath it all, there were stories never told. A black man who fought bravely for a freedom he would not receive. A native tribe forced to choose between two enemies, knowing either choice meant erasure. Women who ran farms, smuggled supplies, and buried husbands without ever being named heroes. The old man remembered them all. He remembered a young enslaved man who asked a simple question: "If freedom is real, will it come for me too?" No one answered. When victory finally came, church bells rang, cannons fired in celebration, flags rose where chains had once hung. People cheered. The old man did not. He watched as power changed hands, but not structure. He watched new leaders inherit old systems. He watched promises written with beautiful words and selective meaning. The Constitution would speak of liberty. It would not speak of everyone. Years passed. The old man grew older while the nation grew louder. Cities expanded, myths formed, children learned simplified stories about heroes who never doubted, and victories that cost less than they did. One evening, a young dock worker approached him. "Were you really there?" the boy asked. The old man looked toward the water where ships once carried empires. "Yes," he said softly. "Was it worth it?" The old man did not answer immediately. He thought of the blood, the courage, the lies, the hope, the unfinished work. Finally, he spoke. "Freedom," he said, "is not something you win once. It is something you pay for again and again." The boy walked away confused. The old man returned to watching. America had been born, but birth, he knew, was only the beginning of responsibility. And history, like freedom, was still unfinished. And history, like freedom, was still unfinished. The old man remained by the harbor as years folded into decades. America grew louder. New buildings rose where blood had once soaked into dirt. Streets were renamed after heroes. Statues appeared, bronze men frozen in perfect courage, their doubts carefully erased. The old man watched children point at those statues. "They were great men," teachers said. The old man said nothing. He had seen those men bleed, beg, hesitate, and compromise. He had seen greatness built not only on bravery, but on silence, on who was left out of the story. Freedom had won the war. It had not won the peace. The chains did not disappear. They simply became quieter. Plantations expanded. Cotton replaced tobacco. Enslaved hands fed a young nation's hunger for wealth. The words liberty and property learned to live comfortably in the same sentence. The old man traveled south once. He saw men who had fought side by side with white soldiers now standing in fields, still owned, still unpaid, still invisible. He saw scars that no flag could cover. One night, a former soldier recognized him. "You were there," the man said. "You saw us fight." "Yes," the old man replied. "Then tell me," the man whispered, eyes burning, "when does my freedom arrive?" The old man had no answer. He never pretended to. As the years passed, the frontier moved west. Opportunity, they called it. The old man called it hunger wearing a new mask. He watched native nations pushed from their lands through treaties written to be broken. He watched promises exchanged for gun barrels. He watched entire cultures reduced to footnotes. America expanded by shrinking others. And still, the myths grew stronger. The nation needed them. Myths were easier than truth. People wanted heroes, not consequences. Triumph, not contradiction. A clean birth story, not a bloody inheritance. The old man became more invisible with time. That was how he survived. During the War of 1812, young men spoke with the same fire he had heard decades earlier. "This time," they said, "we will prove ourselves." The old man recognized the words. They were always the same. Proving always came at a cost paid by the poor. Years later, as factories rose and smoke replaced trees, the old man sat on a bench near the harbor again. Ships now carried goods instead of soldiers. Money moved faster than morality. A journalist noticed him one afternoon. "You've been here a long time," the man said. "People say you remember everything." The old man smiled faintly. "People say many things." The journalist hesitated. "Is it true," he asked, "that America was born perfect?" The old man looked out at the water. "No," he said, "it was born screaming." The journalist waited for more. The old man did not continue. Some truths, he had learned, only survived when discovered slowly. As the nation approached its first century, tension tightened like a rope. Freedom's unpaid debts came due. States argued, families divided, old compromises rotted. Slavery, the nation's original sin, refused to stay buried. The old man sensed the coming storm before the first cannon fired. He had felt it before. War has a smell before it has a sound. When the Civil War came, it came with familiar lies, honor, heritage, necessity. It came with uniforms and speeches that hid the simple truth, a country tearing itself apart over who counted as human. The old man watched brothers kill brothers. He watched freedom fight itself. He watched emancipation declared and celebrated, and then delayed, denied, resisted. He watched hope rise and immediately be hunted. Reconstruction tried. America blinked. The old man stood in crowds as black men voted for the first time, and again when those rights were taken away through quieter violence. He watched laws change and hatred adapt. Time passed, always time. Cities rose taller, wars grew farther away, technology advanced faster than memory. People began to say the old man was a ghost. He liked that. Ghosts were harder to silence. One evening, long after the harbor had changed shape for the third time, a young woman sat beside him. She was holding a book, history, worn and marked. "She don't mention people like you," she said. "History rarely does," the old man replied. "Then how do we know what's real?" He looked at her carefully. "You listen to what makes you uncomfortable. That's usually where the truth hides." She nodded, unsure if she understood. The old man did not expect her to. Understanding always lagged behind experience. As his body weakened, his mind remained sharp. He remembered faces more clearly than dates,
pain more clearly than victories. One morning, he did not come to the harbor. People noticed, briefly. Life continued. When he returned days later, leaning heavily on a cane, a child asked him, "Did you see America being born?" "Yes," he answered. "Was it beautiful?" The old man thought for a long time. "It was necessary," he said finally. "Beauty came later, sometimes." The child frowned. Adults always complicated things. The old man felt his time thinning. He knew he would not see America finished. No one ever did. Before the end, he wrote nothing, left no journal, gave no final speech. He had learned that nations rarely listen to warnings, but individuals sometimes do. On his last evening by the water, he watched the sun dip behind buildings built by hands history never thanked. He whispered, not to the nation, but to the future, "Remember that freedom is not a story you tell once. It is a question you must keep answering." When he died, there was no ceremony, no flag, no monument. But somewhere, a teacher hesitated before simplifying a lesson. Somewhere, a student asked a harder question. Somewhere, a voice refused an easy lie. And that was enough. America had been born in blood. It would only survive through truth.